CCTV footage reveals Xiao Zhan security guard poisoned Wang Yibo. The truth unfolds in a harsh way. The world had been drowning in whispers, half-truths, and fractured stories, but none carried as much weight as the revelation that finally came to light. For weeks, the mysterious illness of Wang Yibo had shaken fans, colleagues, and the entertainment industry to its very core. Every camera flash captured his fading strength. Every stage performance reflected his struggle, and every smile seemed painted, masking the storm brewing within. Until one night, when the glow of CCTV footage illuminated the darkest secret. It wasn't fate nor a random act, but a betrayal rooted within the closest circle, Xiao Zhan's own security guard. The scene unfolded like a silent film, yet more powerful than words could describe. The footage was sharp, brutal in its honesty, showing what no one dared to imagine. The security guard, cloaked in loyalty by profession but shadowed by intent, slipped something unseen into Wang Yibo's drink. The world froze in that moment. The stillness in the room was heavy, suffocating, as investigators replayed the footage over and over. Each replay was a stab at the heart, tearing through disbelief, drowning hope in a sea of bitter reality. The night the footage surfaced was nothing less than cinematic. A room full of officials, journalists, and industry insiders gasped in unison when the truth glared at them from the screen. Some clutched their chests, others covered their mouths to stifle their cries. The harsh fluorescent light in the room only heightened the rawness of the moment, casting long shadows across shocked faces. Xiao Zhan himself sat there, pale as marble, his eyes wide and unblinking. He looked not the guard, but the figure of Wang Yibo captured in the footage, healthy and unaware, sipping the poisoned drink with trust so pure it hurt to watch. Outside, the city roared with its usual chaos, horns blaring, neon lights flickering, and footsteps echoing against wet pavements. But inside, time had collapsed. The walls seemed to close in. The sound of the footage looping back felt like a blade slicing through silence. Every small detail screamed louder than thunder. The way the guard glanced around nervously, the quick, practiced movement of his hand, the fleeting smirk that followed. Betrayal rarely showed its face so clearly. Wang Yibo's journey from that moment was a slow descent into agony. The poison was cruel, invisible in its attack, stealing his strength inch by inch. Fans saw it but never understood. His weight loss, the fatigue in his eyes, the way he leaned just a little heavier on stage equipment, as though the world itself was pressing down on him. He performed as if nothing was wrong, but every step he took was laced with suffering. And Xiao Zhan, his friend, his brother in spirit, stood helplessly by his side, trying to shield him from rumors, offering smiles where there were tears. When the footage was released, it was not just about a crime. It was about trust shattered, about loyalty weaponized, about the thin line between protection and destruction. The guard was supposed to be a wall, a shield, a silent sentinel ensuring safety. Instead, he became the blade that pierced the heart. The aftermath was as dramatic as the revelation itself. Fans stormed social media, their cries echoing across platforms. Words like betrayal, pain, and justice trended in fiery waves. Some refused to believe it, denying the evidence even when it played before their eyes. Others demanded answers, voices trembling with rage. How could this happen under Xiao Zhan's roof? How could the man meant to protect be the one who plotted harm? Xiao Zhan's silence that night was louder than any scream. His hands trembled as he pressed them together, his knuckles turning white. He could not cry in front of the cameras, not when millions watched, not when every blink was dissected by the world. But his silence told 1,000 stories. A brother broken, a friend betrayed, a man suffocated by guilt he did not deserve. The police report was clinical, factual, stripping away the emotion that bled through every heart. It spoke of motives yet unclear, of financial desperation, of manipulation by forces outside the guard's control. But those cold words could never capture the heat of betrayal, the sting of tears shed in secret, the crushing weight of knowing that Wang Yibo's pain was no accident. It was orchestrated. In the weeks following the revelation, the industry became a battlefield of emotions. Directors who once pushed schedules suddenly canceled projects out of respect. Fellow celebrities sent messages, some public, some private, offering strength, prayers, and apologies for not noticing sooner. Fans lit candles, filled streets with posters and handwritten notes, their grief turning into movements of solidarity. Stay strong, Yibo became more than a phrase. It became a heartbeat uniting millions. But the most heart-wrenching scenes unfolded between Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan themselves. In the privacy of a hospital room, far from cameras, the two sat in silence. Wang Yibo's fragile body rested against the bed, his eyes dull, yet carrying sparks of resilience. Xiao Zhan sat beside him, head bowed, words trapped in his throat. How could he explain? How could he say sorry for something he did not do, but still felt responsible for? He reached for Yibo's hand, cold yet steady, and held it as though holding the last fragment of trust left between them. Yibo's lips parted, his voice weak but sharp. It wasn't you. Don't carry what's not yours. And yet, Xiao Zhan cried that night, the kind of tears that burn, leaving scars unseen. The investigation deepened, unraveling motives like threads in a tapestry. The guard confessed, though his voice carried no remorse. He spoke of debts, of promises made by faceless figures, of greed that outweighed loyalty. His eyes were empty, hollow, as though humanity had long abandoned him. No apology could undo what had been done. No reasoning could soften the blow. Justice was swift, but justice could never heal. What remained after was not just a story of crime, but a tale of resilience, of two souls bound not by blood but by fate, standing against shadows that tried to tear them apart. Wang Yibo, despite the poison that coursed through him, rose again, not just as an artist, but as a survivor. His performances, though scarred by struggle, shone brighter, each movement infused with defiance that spoke louder than any lyric. Xiao Zhan, too, bore the weight, transforming his grief into art, his silence into strength. Together, they became living proof that betrayal could wound but never conquer. The footage continues to live in archives, locked away but remembered by millions. People replay it not to feed the pain, but to remind themselves of truth's power, of how light always pierces darkness, no matter how cruel the shadows. It remains a harsh revelation, a brutal reminder that even the closest hands can harm. Yet, from that brutality bloomed a beauty, the beauty of loyalty that endured, of fans who never let go, of two men who chose to rise even when the world tried to bury them. And so, the story of Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan's guard is not just one of betrayal. It is one of truth revealed in the harshest way, a truth that hurt, that scarred, but also one that carved a path towards strength, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. The footage itself became the centerpiece of conversations, the very heartbeat of mystery that had left countless sleepless. When the screen first flickered, showing the grainy but undeniable reality, it was as though time itself bowed down to the truth. The security guard's figure, once a shadow in the background of countless photos and red carpet appearances, now stood in glaring spotlight. His loyalty badge gleamed under the dim light of the footage, but the movement of his hand betrayed him. He leaned over the drink placed carefully on the table, his eyes darting, his body taut with nerves. With one swift motion, his betrayal was sealed. It wasn't just an act. It was a story in itself. The guard's hesitation, the quick glance at the camera as though he could sense the all-seeing eye, the moment he lingered a second too long beside the cup. That tiny pause, insignificant in real time, became monumental when slowed down. Investigators magnified every second, zoomed in on every flick of his fingers, every shift in his expression. Some said his lips moved as though whispering to himself, a mantra of courage or a curse of regret. The silence of the room watching the footage was broken only by the faint hum of projector, yet in that silence hearts shattered louder than thunder. Wang Yibo's figure in the footage was almost too painful to bear. He walked into the frame with the same effortless grace that defined him. A quiet smile, a relaxed gesture as he picked up the cup. There was no suspicion in his eyes, no flicker of doubt. He trusted the world around him, trusted the people beside him, and in that trust lay the cruelty of the scene. He lifted the drink casually, like any other day, his throat welcoming what he never knew was poison. That single sip froze millions in disbelief when they watched it later. The camera captured everything. The subtle tightening of his jaw as the first wave of discomfort struck, the fleeting confusion in his eyes, the way he placed the cup down with fingers that trembled ever so slightly. It was a cruel juxtaposition. his smile still lingering while his body already began to wage a war it didn't prepare for. Fans who saw the replay described it as a dagger to the chest. He looked so innocent, so unguarded, and we just watched him drink death. One fan wrote online, her words echoing collective heartbreak. In the hours that followed the revelation, the atmosphere in the city shifted. Neon lights seemed dimmer, laughter sounded hollow, and the air felt heavy with grief. News screens played loops of the footage. Headlines screamed betrayal, and public outrage soared. Every corner cafe, every living room, every office with a television buzzing became a theater of shock. Strangers cried together, sharing tissues and gasps, as though Wang Yibo's pain had become theirs too. But perhaps the most searing scene unfolded behind closed doors. Xiao Zhan, who had always been a steady anchor beside Wang Yibo, broke in ways the world would never fully see. Witnesses described him sitting for hours in front of the footage, refusing to blink, refusing to breathe until every detail etched itself into his memory. His hands would curl into fists, nails digging into his palms, drawing blood that he didn't notice. "How did I not see it?" he whispered over and over. His voice cracked, a prayer lost of guilt. He stared not at the guard but at Yibo. The trust in his eyes, the laughter that never guessed betrayal. That was what haunted him, what crushed him beyond repair. In one heart-stopping moment at the hospital, after the footage was confirmed, Xiao Zhan entered Wang Yibo's room with eyes red and swollen, his steps heavy. He knelt beside Yibo's bed, his hands trembling as he took hold of Yibo's weak fingers. "I should have protected you," he said, his voice breaking into shards. Yibo, his strength drained but his spirit still intact, managed a faint smile. "You're still here," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "That's enough." That simple exchange, carried on lips cracked by suffering, became immortalized in the hearts of those who heard it. The world outside responded with a mixture of rage and devotion. Fans painted murals on city walls, depicting Wang Yibo as a warrior rising from flames, his eyes fierce, his posture unbroken. Thousands gathered in candlelight vigils, the night air filled with chants of his name, their flames flickering like stars against the darkness. Social media turned into a battlefield of voices, some calling for justice with words sharp as knives, others drowning timelines with love letters to Yibo, promising to never let him face the shadows alone. The trial of the guard was a cold theater compared to the burning emotions outside. He sat in silence, his eyes vacant, as prosecutors laid out evidence. The CCTV footage played on giant screens, replaying the betrayal in merciless loops. But no sentence, no gavel strike, could match the punishment the public already dealt. His name became cursed, his face forever remembered as a shadow that tried to break a star. Yet, in the midst of pain, beauty bloomed. Wang Yibo, though weakened, returned to the stage in time, his movement slower but his spirit roaring louder than ever. Every performance became a declaration that he would not be defeated, that poison could scar the body but never the will. His voice cracked sometimes, his body faltered, but the audience rose to their feet each time, their applause thunderous, their tears unstoppable. Xiao Zhan often stood backstage, his eyes locked on Yibo, his heart carrying both pride and sorrow. The bond between them, once shaken, now gleamed stronger, as though betrayal itself had forged it in fire. The footage still lingers in collective memory, etched into the fabric of time. People remember the betrayal, yes, but they also remember the resilience that followed. They remember the way Yibo's eyes, dulled by suffering, still carried sparks of defiance. They remember Xiao Zhan's silence, broken only by loyalty that could never be poisoned. And they remember themselves, the unity, the way millions became one voice, one heart, one shield against the darkness that tried to consume their star. It was a harsh truth, revealed in the harshest way. But sometimes, from the cruelest revelations, the most beautiful stories rise. And this story, of betrayal, of pain, of resilience, will forever be told not as an ending, but as proof that light, no matter how fragile, will always burn brighter than the shadows.